Okay, welcome back to PMGT 4030, the Project Management Laboratory. We'll do a series of 6 short lectures to get through a good understanding of scope management. The thing about scope is that it includes all the work and only the work. That very statement by itself is going to help us avoid scope changing in an uncontrolled fashion. All the work, and only the work that is required in the project, which means we'll end up listing what is and what is not in the project. Here are our objectives for this week's lesson. Please pause the lecture and review them. We'll be covering them in the following lecture series. This is just a review. Again, we've talked many times. We are integrating from page 25 the process groups, which are high-level groupings of processes in IPAC, as I call it, to develop and execute the project management plan. On the right, you see everything in it. And to do that, we're using project documents throughout. Many of them we can change without change control, except the charter, statement of work, and agreements. Those would require change control, but they're useful documents. They're active. I'm always using them to make sure my project plan is executed as required, or if the project plan needs to be changed, any of those items must go through integrated change control. Okay. There are some scope isms I'd like to cover at the very beginning of this. Again, I've already mentioned doing the work and only the work, controlling it. The project involves, as we've talked before, about product scope, which is the end result product that the customer is going to see, and that'll go into operations of some sort. The product scope will last for the life of the product. The project scope is more narrow, it's limited. It is about delivering a product, service, or result and giving it over to operations. We want to have clear, defined, and formally approved requirements. The clarity is very important, very clear requirements. And I will be discussing this more in the following lectures. When we build my scope statement, and then I'm going to create a work breakdown structure, or WBS. It will be used on all projects, broken down to the work packages, which define the deliverables I'm looking for. We'll look at that. Gold plating, a number one rule, one of the 8 number one rules of project management. That was a joke. If you take the PMP formal exam, it will be on there. Gold plating is never allowed. The formal definition of that is adding functionality without approval. Never allowed. We have to go through integrated change control to change the scope and add some functionality to our project. And so we want to be aware of scope changes throughout. Okay. The scope processes involve these phases of plan scope management, which is again about how I'm going to manage scope throughout. The collect requirements is about stakeholder needs. Defining scope is a description, a detailed description of the product and project. Creating the WBS is breaking that scope statement down into smaller, more manageable parts. Validating scope is about formalizing acceptance of the deliverable by the customer. Okay. We're going to review the deliverables with the customer to gain formal acceptance. And of course, when the customer looks at it, it could lead to changes. And then we're going to control scope, which is about managing those changes. Okay? Quick quiz. I love a quiz. This is a celebration of knowledge, I call it. So, from the following list, what are the outputs of plan scope management? Well, I've often talked about, we're just turning words around. Plan scope management gives you a scope management plan. That's very common. Cost management will give me a cost management plan. Just turning the words around. Scope is a little different. It's one of those few planning processes that actually gives me two major outputs. And that is the scope management plan, which you would expect, and the requirements management plan. We'll talk about the differences here shortly. So the PMBOK guide, the new version, covers at the beginning of every chapter key concepts, trends, tailoring, and considerations for agile project management. Consider the project life. We've already talked product scope and project scope. They discuss that also. And I want you to think then about the project life cycle and whether you're going to use predictive or waterfall project management, which is more managed, very detailed, or adaptive, which has short sprints, define a new requirement, and 2-week sprint to finish it, that sort of thing. And there are some examples or differences between adaptive and predictive life cycles. I frankly think the differences are minimal in project management. And I'd be happy to address that if somebody wanted to send me email, was interested in my thoughts on that. Okay. Validate scope are verified deliverables obtained from control quality, and these are formally signed off. So validate scope. The project management plan is an input to validate scope because it's going to provide us with the other things like the scope baseline, which is going to give me the work breakdown structure, the work breakdown structure dictionary, and the scope statement that I need. This is what I'm validating with the customer to gain their formal acceptance or to end up with change requests. Okay. Also, there are trends in tailoring in the PMBOK guide listed, and those are on page 132 and 133. They talk about requirements as a business analysis, and if you're assigned a business analyst is normally somebody on a major project that works for the project manager. They will run your scope management plan. It is a formal certification. The Project Management Institute offers one itself now in business analysis. There's also the IIBA you could Google, which is the International Business Analysts Association. And they have certifications, for example, the CBAP, Certified Business Analyst Professional, CBAP, that sort of thing. So these are people that work for the project manager and generally assess and manage and track and trace your requirements. Okay, that is it for this lesson. Let's take a break.